At this time, I'm going to ask my Vice Chairman to give us approval of the minutes.
Chairman, I've reviewed the minutes, found them to be in order, and move for them to be accepted.
Thank you, sir. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We'll move right into this. We have everybody except one, I believe, this evening, and hopefully Commissioner Gurley will be on his way. We'll move right into item number 2, Juvenile Detention Report. Ask the director to come forward. Good evening.
Good evening. So before you have the report for the month of May. On that first page down at the bottom, I'm happy to report that Fayette County and Montgomery County checks have come in since we printed this report, so that just Dyer and Coffee is still owe. But as usual, they're going to be sending the checks. They just haven't come before the meeting. As far as the report is concerned, happy to report that for several months now we haven't had any positives on our STD stats, and beyond that, if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them about the report.
Have any questions on the report? Not, do we have a motion to approve the report? Motion. Have the motion to approve. Commissioner Phillips, second by Commissioner P. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? I believe we have a MOU concerning the Board of Education.
Right, there's technically there's an MOU between the Board of Education and Rutherford County Juvenile Detention for basic education services, and then additionally there's the contract for supplemental education services. This is, I don't know if you want me to talk about them separately or together. I can do either. But the basic education MOU does, it's just an understanding between us and the Board of Education that will take care of the basic education services for all the young people that are detained in our facility, whether they're from Rutherford County or from out of county. The Board of Education is reimbursed for that by the state. It doesn't come into our budget, but it does go into the Board of Education's department line items. And then the supplemental education services, there is a employee that is connected to that, and it is our Title I, what you would most understand it to be is our Title I grant and a services provider, and he makes sure that the supplemental education that we are required to give to the young people is taken care of, and he also keeps up with some of the budgeting line items that's associated with that.
This is similar to what we have done.
But this is exactly the same as years before. The only difference is the supplemental education services contract. That budget sheet, that it should be the last page, that changes depending upon how much money is allocated for our specific facility. It's based on population, so the actual money is a little less this time than it's been in the past. But that all goes towards either the salary for that individual or a online courseware called Edmentum that we use.
Is this person a county employee or is he a contract?
No, he's a Rutherford County employee.
School board employee?
No, he's actually a JDC employee. Share him, sort of, but he's in my budget.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the MOI with the Board of Education and the contract for supplemental services with the Board of Education.
Okay. We have a motion to approve. And we have a second. Commissioner Gammon. I think we'll call the roll on this due to the fact that we do have a budget item in there. Call the roll, Madam Secretary.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
That's all I've got.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Public Safety Director. Good evening.
Meeting. Before you is our report from emergency management from May the 23rd to June the 15th. A couple items that I'd like to point out is one recent plane crash that occurred on Percy Priest Lake. I'd like to extend our thanks to our public safety partners from the Sheriff's Department, EMS, Fire, the town of Smyrna, City of Laverne. All of those, if they didn't provide personnel, they provided equipment under our mutual aid response. Smyrna was grateful to allow us to use their town of center event center for family to gather. Pretty emotional scene, and our personnel did a fantastic job. Secondly, in your report, I provided, or our staff has provided, information concerning our Southgate Dispatch Center to kind of give you a bird's eye view of what occurs there on a day-to-day basis or a monthly basis. So we went back to June of last year to May of this year. And as you can see, they received 59,680 phone calls within that center. Keep in mind that EMS provided 38,725 calls for EMS, and then they also answered 8,073 calls through the fire departments through that center. So I wanted to give you a little bird's eye view of what occurs, not only with our responders, but our dispatch center as well. And if there's no other questions, that's my report.
Any questions, comments?
Motion to approve the report.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do we have
Second.
Second. Commissioner Serino. All those in favor of the report, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do want to congratulate you on an excellent job as far as what we had to deal with as far as the plane crash. All the crews that were involved in that did an excellent job.
They were great.
And represented Rutherford County well. Mayor, did you have?
I went down on that Sunday and was amazed at the participation and the connection between the National Transportation Board. They said that they had never seen such a coordination, Mr. Chairman, and members of all the agencies. I believe it was a captain that was in charge.
Captain Josh Sanders, and then he would rotate out with Captain John Engel.
Right. But they did an excellent job, and it just showed how proud we should be of all of our agencies who responded throughout the county. So our hats off to you. Thank you for doing.
They did an excellent job.
All the agencies.
Sure did. And our partners on that event, like I said, if their personnel were not present, their equipment was, and they made sure that they got it there. So we appreciate that. I've also got another grant. Yes, sir. We're requesting to receive, or permission to receive, a grant. It's a Hazmat Grant that we applied for some time ago. It's a total of $4,760. This grant, it's our intentions to bring in what's called a class called Hazmat IQ. And it would be for all of our public safety partners throughout the county. We would open that up.
Chris, is there matching funds on that grant?
Yes, sir. The total matching is, I think it was $1,100. $1,190 is the matching part that we would be responsible for.
Basically, we're getting about $3,600.
Actually, it's $4,760. Add the $1,190, it's about $5,000.
Okay, I misunderstood you then. You said that the county doesn't have a matching part?
Yes, sir. So we would receive $4,760 from the federal government. We would supply $1,190.
Okay, well, if you subtract that, you're gonna gross about $3,600. But you've already applied, and they've given you the go-ahead as long as we do the matching. Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we accept this grant.
Okay, we have a motion to approve.
Second.
Have the second. Call the roll, Madam Secretary.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, thank you, sir. Ambulance report? Running solo tonight, aren't we?
Okay, Denise and Melanie, neither one have business tonight, so that's always a good thing. All right. For the month of May, the number of emergency calls that the ambulance service went on was 3,316. Number of hospital transfers we did were 77. Total number of calls we had for the month of May was 3,393. We're at a 6.9 average response times. We had 90 deaths. State payments received from those was $2,250. 30 of those went for an autopsy. We've paid $58,800 for those. Year-to-date on autopsies, we've done 328, and year-to-date on autopsy fees is $642,880. On the non-emergency side, just real quick, I want to back up, and I'm not going to stay on this but just a second. If you'll see on your when I was just talking about autopsies, where we spent $642,880. If you look at last year, we've doubled that, $435,000 what we spent last year. So that's just a number I want to throw out there to you. Okay, on the non-emergency side, we did 468 calls. 38 of those had to be declined. Total billed was $336,928. Total collections was at $104,533. Year-to-date collections is at $1,043,967. Projected collections are at $1,138,873 at a 152% collection rate. Insurance write-offs were at $177,668, and other write-offs at $11,000. Okay, over on to the next page. There's a young lady from NHC, Kristen Thompson, had contacted our non-emergency transport side, and one of her patients who we're very familiar with wasn't doing too well, and one of his last wishes were to go see his nephew play baseball. He plays for Riverdale. And the two paramedics or staff members that were that he had requested were very familiar with this patient, but they happened to be off on the day of the ball game. And Brandy Clark and Danielle Lane come in on their day off to make sure this man's wishes were granted. And if you look over on the next page, they came in and took this man to see his nephew play baseball. And this is just the caliber of people. You've heard me say it over and over, but this truly is the caliber of people we have at the ambulance service. I also think it's a good reflection on the staff at NHC. So they did a lot to make this happen, and we were glad to accommodate them. And you can flip through there and see some of the pictures that were taken. Last month we also had EMS week, and we received several cards and thank yous from different agencies and all of that. One report of a patient that we flew out to Vanderbilt, and I received 14 letters, so to speak, from the kids at the First United Methodist Preschool. Brent had taken an ambulance over there to, it was their last day of school, and showed them the ambulance and all of that. And I don't care what kind of day you've had. If you've had one like I've had the last couple of days, just looking at this will sure brighten it up a little bit. And I'd encourage you to look through all of that. Is there any questions on my report?
Sorry, Carl, that number of autopsies, are any of those COVID-related? Could that be one of the reasons that it's up
Well,
that much?
that's a good question. COVID is not a reason we would do autopsies. Honestly, Commissioner, this is truly growth of our county. That's the bottom line.
Nothing to do with the pandemic.
Some of it, I personally feel, some of our overdoses and suicides might be some of the aftermath or some of the residual of COVID, but solely for COVID, no, sir.
We're looking at 200,000.
Yes, sir. And like I said, keep in mind, when we go to a level 2, I believe, again, I have left out our collections on the emergency side. Could I run over that real quick?
You can.
Sorry about that. I skipped over it. I apologize. I skipped over our collections on the emergency side. We billed $1,463,817. Total collected was $774,908. Year-to-date collections is $8,191,163. Projected yearly collections is at $8,935,814. Collection rates at 75%. Insurance write-offs were $425,213, and other write-offs were at $248,677. Also, real quick, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, I've told you maybe last month or a month before that we're looking into another billing company. I'm not very pleased with the performance our billing company is performing. We actually have another meeting tomorrow with another vendor, and I'm going to say within the next week or two I'll be approaching the mayor with a recommendation of possible going to another vendor on our collections. So So I just want to study it real good before, because I know he's going to ask me a lot of questions. So I just want to be prepared for it. And that's my report, sir.
Okay. Other questions?
Move to approve the report, Mr. Chairman.
And to approve. Have a second?
Second.
I have the second. All those in favor of the report, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Fire and rescue. Come in, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor, and Commissioners. I'd like to take a quick moment to echo Director Clark's words on the plane crash. I had the responsibility of being the incident commander for that incident for at least the first 12 hours of that response effort. It was certainly a highly complex incident that involved resources from every level of our local, state, and federal government, as well as partners from the private sector. On a personal note, in my nearly 20 years of emergency services, I've never been more impressed or proud to work with and see the level of dedication and resolve that all of our Rutherford County Public Safety exhibited that day over the course of that operation. On behalf of Rutherford County Fire Rescue and Chief Farley, I would like to take a moment to recognize all of our partners that responded to and assisted with that incident or with incident support. And some of those Director Clark has already mentioned, but I'll just go through the list. The Town of Smyrna and the Smyrna Fire Department, the Smyrna Airport Authority Public Safety Department, Laverne Fire Department, Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency, the Metro Nashville Office of Emergency Management, the Metro Nashville Police Department, Wilson County Emergency Management, Tennessee Emergency Management Agency, Storm Point Emergency Response, and Laverne Box 100 Incorporated. For the month of May, Rutherford County Fire Rescue responded to 3 structure fires, 8 vehicle fires, 303 EMS incidents, a total of 48 motor vehicle accidents, 21 with injuries, and 27 without. We had a total call volume for the month of May of 579 incidents. As you'll see, our year-to-date for 2021, we're currently at 35 structure fires, 27 vehicle fires, 1,405 EMS incidents, 7 extrications for a total year-to-date of 2,798 calls. On the next page, you'll see the breakdown of county fire call volume for the year, breaking down per volunteer department as well. On the next sheet, you'll see the report that we send to the Codes Department for structures that were damaged by fire. On the next sheet, you'll see the total number of fire prevention and safety grant installations for smoke alarms that were made, and that total was 53. Our Fire Marshal's Office Fire Investigation Unit report. It was a busy month in May into June. As you'll see there, we have one incident on Blazer Avenue that was investigated, and the charges are pending on that. And then a case update from a case back over a year ago. 2 suspects were identified in connection with a homicide in Bedford County where the vehicle was stolen and subsequently burned in Rutherford County. Indictments were delivered on those 2 suspects. Another incident I believe would be notable to mention, on June the 3rd, Rutherford County Fire Rescue and a number of other departments responded to a reported fire at a church at Life Point Fellowship on Almoville Road. That fire was determined to be incendiary as well. Suspect was identified and charges were taken out on that suspect. And I believe that does conclude the fire rescue report. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Questions for the captain? Let me say that Captain Sanders was, I don't know if any of you were watching any of the events that happened that Saturday. He was the commander on that scene, and he had the opportunity to address the media. And I don't know if any of you have ever had the opportunity to address media before. He did an outstanding job. I've seen a lot of those situations where people have had to do that. And I don't think I've seen a lot of them not do the job that he did. He was very professional in what he did. He presented it very well, and I commend you, Captain, for the job you did for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You did an outstanding job. Do I have a motion to approve his report? Got the motion approved and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Thank you, sir. Okay, you're going to give us a report, Mr. Director, on the radio system or other things?
I don't know much of a radio report, but however, we have been working closely with the Sheriff's Department, the school board. As you can see, we've been working with David Krim over for the Plainview Elementary Crisis Team for their radios and trying to get these all out. It's our intent to also provide some video for our principals on how to use this new radio system. Our schools have gotten or received that radios inside the school system, so it may take a little bit of education. However, our principals really don't have time to learn about a radio, so we're hoping to put together a video to help them, guide them, and maybe take a little part of their day, and instead of bringing them all in, we'll just send out a video for it. So to let you know that it's our hopes to have a replacement for Peter Rogers here in the very, very near future. We conducted interviews. We asked our stakeholders to participate in that interview process, and it's our hopes to provide a job offer here in the very near future. That's my report.
Any questions anyone may have? Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sheriff's Office. Evening, Sheriff. I have to say something about the Sheriff's Department. I mean, Friday night I come out from Nashville Speedway, and as I turned to try to get out of there, I met all your explorers. I looked up the road and I thought, I have never seen such large fireflies in all my life, but they were all in sequence with these big yellow flashlights, and all you had to do was follow that yellow light all the way up there, and they did an outstanding job getting you out of there and moving you out. So we got a good bunch of explorers. I think you were out there too, Commissioner Rather and Commissioner P and others, but they did a good job, I thought.
Did y'all coordinate with Wilson County?
Sir?
Did you all coordinate with Wilson County since ours stops right past the exit?
Well, we had Wilson, Highway Patrol, all of us were out there.
Okay, good.
Mayor, Chairman, I asked that question, and it was Rutherford County, THP, Wilson County, the Explorers. Now, I think there was a couple other groups maybe out there.
There probably was, but
yes.
Yeah.
They were everywhere, and you had no doubt which way to get out and which way you had to go, and it was great. It was phenomenal. And I will say, I was around some of the explorers. Some of the explorers are now on staff at the Sheriff's Office.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. That's a great program. Wonderful.
It's one of the best programs that we've got, and of course we've gotten quite a few employees out of that program, and then also THP has gotten some employees, so good program. I'm going to start with the JAG equipment grant, and I'm requesting permission to apply for a year 2021 JAG grant. It's no matching funds to be split with Murfreesboro Police Department. Our half will be approximately $30,951 and will be used to purchase mobile fingerprinting equipment for case investigations on our CID investigations. In this, I'm also asking and seeking approval for the mayor to sign an MOU agreement with MPD and accept the award when granted. This is something that we've been doing several years, so this is not something new to us, and there's no matching funds.
Motion to approve the grant.
Second.
I have the second. Madam Secretary, call the roll.
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips? Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Chairman Reed?
Yes. Okay, sir.
All right, sir, thank you. The only other thing I've got is on our departmental budget report. We're well within limits, and of course, we'll be able to finish the month out, this fiscal year out. We had 609 inmates over the weekend. We're back down to 573 at present. We had 64 state inmates, 12 of which were sent to the state institution today. The state is still taking state inmates from us. So we're back down, as I said, to 573 at this point right now. And so we're pretty well holding our own on that. 126 total COVID cases in our detention facility since February. That figure has been holding steady for the last 3 months, and so we've had no new cases. And so we're holding that pretty steady also. And that's everything I've got.
Yes, a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Item number 194, I believe, is witness something, $10,000.
You said 190. Okay.
194.
We've had no jury and witness expenses since the COVID. There's been no trials, and so therefore had no need for juries. That's due to COVID. Otherwise, it would have probably been spent.
Carry that money over.
Well, it'll go back in, and of course, we'll ask for it again next year, just in case, because the courts have now started opening back up again.
Motion made to approve. Have a second? Have a second. Commissioner Rather. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Okay. Thank you very much.
Carries. Mayor?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of updates, if you could give the committee. Any leaks in the roof, since we put the new roof on, generator, update on your Durangos, and a security fence.
All right, security fence, I guess we'll start with that. The security fence is in. We're waiting on Gory Reagan for the secured locks on our gates. The gates and fence are in. We expect that to probably be somewhere mid-July when we get all that in place. Durangos are in. We have run into an equipment problem in outfitting them. We were about a year late in getting the Durangos. Now the equipment on our push bars and some of the light bar and equipment is back ordered, and we're having trouble getting that. There's 243 last count that I've got, I think, that's sitting on the trucker's lot right now of all the various agencies waiting to be equipped. 20 of them or 30 of them are ours. They sent in brackets for push bumpers, and the brackets were the wrong ones, so they had to send them back. So we're waiting on equipment right now to outfit them. We had 23 leaks in the roof. Since the new roof, we've had 0. So that totally fixed our problem there. The other item that we got is a new phone system, which is being installed presently. Generator is being delivered tomorrow, and will be set in place within the next week. So that should complete all of our projects that we've got going on.
Yeah, the members, the fence, the generator, and
All of it's coming.
and the roof all came from the governor's grant that you all appropriated for us to spend money. So those are well-needed items for that premises out there.
Every project that we've got has come out of the grant program.
Correct.
Sheriff, just a quick question about your roof. Did you get multiple bids on that? I'm just curious as
Yes, sir.
what the costs
we
were.
did, and then I think when we got into that, we found that the bid that we got, the contractor was not licensed, And so we went to an alternate on that, but it was bid, yes.
But it was the same product.
Same product.
It was Aztec out of Florida, but they brought in a contractor out of Kentucky, I believe.
It was out of Kentucky. The contractor was a licensed contractor for this particular product and was supplied by the supplier of the product is who came up with that a licensed contractor.
And it was about half of the EPDM rubber roof that they had gotten a quote for.
That's what I was
That's the
wondering,
acrylic.
what kind of savings we're looking at on that. Thank you.
The first bids that we got were pushing around 400, and we came in around if I remember right, 230, 240, somewhere in that neighborhood. So quite a bit of savings on it.
Sounds like it's almost half then. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Rather.
I just want to say, I've been by there since the fences were put up. I've been to the SO, had a card to swipe and get in the door, firing range, you walk in, and it looks, I didn't realize it till the fences came up, that back then, it didn't look like an SO. Now it's a little more intimidating. You don't want to be in there. So the fences that's tremendous improvement, and I think a much needed expense.
The biggest problem we've got, if you want to look at a jail with an open campus, but that's exactly what we had. You've got prisoners being unloaded in a sally port, and you've got somebody walks up behind you and taps you on the shoulder. That's back there that should not be back there. So it was an extremely dangerous situation that we've had. We had one inmate a little while back because of inattention, because of somebody else bothering when they were unloading, jumped in a vehicle and was trying to make his escape. So it's going to eliminate a lot of problems that we've got over there. Should have been put in when the jail was built. So really.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, Paul's report.
Good evening. For the month of May, we had 552 animals come into the shelter. You can see the breakdown at the bottom. We had 79% go out through adoption and reclaim and 4.4% through euthanasia. When you look at our overall live release rate for dogs, it was 92.1%. Cats were 95%, and overall 92.7%. 212 animals that were reclaimed were done by their original owners through our surgery program, and 70 cats went out through our TNR program. We had over 2,100 people visit the shelter, over 1,800 logged calls and voicemails. Our officers received 1,734 calls and 1,814 were completed out, with them traveling 12,084 miles. Fiscal year to date, we've had 5,405 animals enter into the shelter, a live release rate of 93.1%. Officers have handled 17,627 calls, traveling over 131,000 miles. On our rabies exposure and bite report, for the month of May, we had 40 bites reported. 2 of those were sent for testing. Neither came back positive. And we had 11 other exposures. 1 of those was tested, and it came back negative as well. The last page of the report is just the graph that I give you to show live release versus euthanasia and other outcomes for our dogs and the cats, so you can visually see that versus just looking at data on the page. And that is my report, sir.
Questions on the report? Motion made to approve. Commissioner Phillips, have a second. Second, Commissioner Rather. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Report approved. Thank you, sir.
Have a good night.
OSHA. Well, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Glad to have you with us.
Thank you very much, sir. I'd like to report in the month of May that we had a total of 9 injuries that were work-related. That brings the total for the year-to-date to 74. Of those 74, 54 are OSHA recordables, 24 had restricted days, 12 were lost time days, and 18 all others. Compared to last year, 74 this year compared to last year that we had 60. If we're looking at the incurred dollars, right now this year we're looking at $306,000 as compared to last year of $200,000. And big thing there is that in January of 2020, the insurance company readjusted the way they were reserving the injuries. So that's a little bit of what the difference is there. Of the 9 injuries for the month of May, 8 of them were with the Board of Education. We had 1 in the County General, and that one was with the Sheriff's Department. Are there any questions?
Questions?
Motion to approve the report.
Motion approved. Commissioner Peay, have a second? Second, Commissioner Gammon. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Report approved. Thank you, sir. Recovery Court. Good evening.
This month we have a total of 131 participants during the month of May. We had 16 new clients that were placed into programming. We had 7 people graduate and 6 that were terminated either through self-termination or they failed out of our programming due to new charges or continued non-compliance. At this time, we have 89 applications that are currently in the queue waiting to either be screened or go to court to plea into our programming. Our DUI court is currently operating on a wait list. We are full at this point. We are waiting to hear back from the federal grant that we applied for that would allow us to expand that program and take some more participants. Gail Emery has long been our clinical supervisor over at Recovery Court. She's been there about 20 years. She is retiring at the end of this month. Her last day with the county will be June 30th. And I hate personally to see her go. She has been an asset to me since I started. We have found a replacement. Her name is Janet Mattingly, and Ms. Mattingly will be joining us on the 28th of June and will take over as clinical supervisor. I will be bringing her to these meetings as she will be my person who comes if something were to happen and I couldn't. Last week, our staff completed the mental health first aid training. That was on Thursday and Friday, so that everyone in our office is now a certified mental health first aid responder. I believe the mayor showed up in the middle of that. Sorry. It's okay. I was at another meeting too. So we are trying to get word of what we do in our office out a little bit more into the community. And some of those ways that we are doing that is a little bit more community involvement. For instance, this morning I went over to Murfreesboro Police Department and did a presentation for their CIT training, and we'll go again this Friday. We are going to be actively participating in Recovery Fest, which is a community event in September that provides a safe and sober sort of celebration day for the county. And we have flyers that we have gotten made through one of our grants to go into the VA and at different, like in Laverne at the police department, and Smyrna at the police department, here and at the VA, talking about the services that we provide, both in brochure and like a hanging poster for things. And then last but not least, we've had our applications put on the kiosk at the jail. So we are getting a lot more referrals from inmates that are referring themselves for services, and then we can look in to see if they would be an appropriate participant for our program. It's really opened the doors. We've got a lot more people applying, and we're having to filter through it. But I think a lot of people are getting into our programming that otherwise would not have applied, and given us an idea of how we can help out more individuals. And that is my report, if there's any questions.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to say I'm sorry I stepped in the middle of that meeting the other day, but Commissioner Harris was in my office the other day when my daughter called, and she was online and just scrolling, and she saw where somebody was selling graduation hats for $1 a piece. She had 240 graduation hats, and so I told Commissioner Harris I'd go in half with him. If he'd buy half, I'd buy half, and so we bought them and took them and walked in with those boxes. Mr. Sandlin and I walked in with the boxes in the middle of that meeting, so I apologize, but you average what, 5 or 6?
We're doing between 5 and 7 graduates a month.
Yeah, so 240 ought to last you a while, but it's just the thought, for $1 cap, graduation cap, I don't know what they're charging seniors, to graduate for a cap, but it's just a thought.
I think so. We have talked with some of our participants, and just so that you know, and the commission's aware of how we are planning on using them. If you've ever been to our office, we have like a U-shaped hallway, and it's in the coming months going to end up being painted. So what we're going to do is when someone graduates our program, we're going to have them decorate the hat and put their first name, last initial, and hang them on the wall as decor, so that the people coming into our program can see that people have successfully completed it and what that looks like. So.
Sounds good. Any other question? Motion made to approve. Commissioner Phillips, have a second? Second. Commissioner P. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Report's approved. Thank you. Probation report.
Good evening. The total expenditures for the month of May equaled $112,926.10. The total amount of collections between the Circuit Clerk's Office and the General Sessions Clerk's Office totaled $4,839.70, giving us a total revenue amount of $15,257.70. With the deducted expenditures for the month of May, that was a difference of $97,668.40. The total amount of probation fees that's been turned over to the clerk's office for the month of May was $5,098. Those that failed to enter a VPA for the month of May, that equaled out to be $3,532. So far this fiscal year, $110,442.75 have been turned over to the clerk's office for collections. And then those that failed to enter a VPA for this fiscal year so far equals $101,303.75. And that would be my report.
You've heard the report.
Motion to approve the report, Mr. Chairman.
All right, motion approved. Commissioner P. Second, Commissioner Rather. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Report's approved. Thank you. Congressional Work Center.
Saved the best for last, right? I don't know about that. You'll see first thing on our report here is our June meeting with our board. After that, you'll see our work release program stats. Everything's going well with that. I did have to suspend one of the partners that we use because of their lack of supervision of the inmates. That's done indefinitely. I have talked to them since, and they've come up with some solutions to those issues that they were having, but I'm not quite sure I want to step back into that yet. Next is the yearly activity report. Like the sheriff was talking, our population is down also. We're running about anywhere from 95 to 110 inmates right now, whereas normally we're up about 200. Next will be our monthly worker report. Whereas you'll look down there, total combined savings to the county and some of the other municipalities that use our inmates, $65,928 over the past month. And then as promised,
I put our trash collection amounts in this report too. If you'll see county roads, and that's all county trash collected on our county roads, not state or interstate, and that's 2,960 pounds in the last month. And then on our state routes, including interstates, it was 758 bags collected. And I'm hoping that we'll possibly be able to match our budget by picking up aluminum cans along 840 after that race yesterday. I came down through there and it looked like they were backed up. Well, I thought they were having another Bonnaroo over there or something, but I'm sure there's a mess.
No alcohol consumed, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure none was consumed at that race at all. But that is our report. Just to give you also, before I finish the update on Mechatronics Program, we are almost through the first phase, which is the safety portion of it. We're working with TCAT right now to come up with a solution to the payment. The payment will be done not through us, but straight from the inmates trust fund into TCAT, and that pays for it's $60 for a one-time registration fee, and then $60 for the testing, which also pays for the proctor to come in and watch that test as it's been done. But that's going well. Our programs are starting back up again. A lot of our volunteers are starting to come back in. We probably haven't had a COVID case. I know the last positive we came across was probably 5 months ago, and that was one that we had that was a walk-in or a court-appointed intake, and I think we've had 56 total since this whole pandemic started, so doing pretty well on that. And we also did vaccinations. We had 20% of our population volunteer to be vaccinated last week, so we're going to slowly start doing away with, we've been keeping up with this mask mandate since the beginning of this, so we're going to start looking at easing that up just a little bit. So hopefully we can put this past us and get back to where we were. That is the end of my report.
Mr. Coe.
Yes, sir.
Quick question. On your trash pickup, when you get a full container or basket, whatever you're using, where do you take that?
Well, it depends. If it's, we take the state trash that's off of the state state routes or the interstates to Tennessee Department of Transportation has a place that they send it, and then the rest goes, we take it over to the landfill, that if it's county.
Where's the first location?
The first location?
For the state?
Where's that at, Jason? Do you remember? I can't either. Yeah, it's over near McFadden.
The DOT, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, if acceptable, the superintendent, maybe in, say, August or September, I'd like for the committee to go out and, say, an hour before the meeting, to go out and actually see the Mechatronics Program. And I don't know what time the instructor comes in from Spring Hill, but just to see that, because that's money you allocated through the Gov 20 grant to buy that $100,000 worth of equipment. And I extended an invitation to the governor to come down. We'd really like to get some press out of that, because it's part of that ending that cycle of recidivism and early release program. So if that's what the governor's been after, and so I extended an invitation to him last week. So maybe if we can get him to come down and look, and then get the commission to go out and extend that invitation to all the commissioners to come in
I'd love
and
that.
view that. Okay,
Definitely.
so maybe sometime early fall. What I'd like to do, Mr. Chairman.
I'd like to see it. I have a motion to approve. Commissioner Gamblin, do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Rather. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Report's approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Other business?
I've got one other thing, Mr. Chairman.
Mayor?
Members, I had Rachel send out to you today an email. I'm sure you got it. But, the question that was brought up the other night about we don't have the money yet, well, the money's on its way. As I told you last week, we had approval, and they said they would let us know within 4 or 5 days. We got that approval today, so the check's being cut, and we should have it within 4 or 5 days. So that was confirmation from the U.S. Treasury. So the money will be deposited in our account with our trustee. And then I've talked to Lisa since that time, because there's some question on the money that we appropriated the other night to go ahead with the 6 public health and safety buildings. And some say, well, we're only getting half of that this coming week is $32 million. Okay, so how do we expend money going forward with this project, or do we have to wait till next year? Because it's another 12 months we have to wait before that money is received from the second half of the grant that we're getting on the American Rescue COVID-19 grant. So there is a thing called a GAN, which is a grant anticipation note. So we can actually borrow from ourselves, or we can go back to the federal government and take out a short-term obligation note with the anticipation of the grant money coming, which we're going to need some money for the architect, the engineering, et cetera, to go ahead and get those. I would hate to try to piecemeal 1 or 2 of those. And talking with the architect, and he says, and most of the contractors that he's been talking to will get a better price if we bid all 6 at one time, as opposed to 1 or 2 of those facilities. So you're probably looking at about $4.6 million on each one of those of the 6. So it's about $28 million of the other part of that grant that we'll have, and we'll still have, with the $25.5 million to purchase the State Farm building, then another 28, we'll still have several $1 million left over of the total $64 million grant. I contacted Friday the real estate person that took us on a tour last Thursday, and he will be sending me a letter of intent to sign on behalf of the commission, and then that will start the process for them to get with State Farm. They're going to put up $24,500,000. We'll put up our $25.5, and then we're probably looking at closing on that process towards the end of August. And Lisa said that that's all she needed to know, as long as we're well into the next budget, Mr. Chairman, that we don't have to close, and making sure that was Friday. She was unsure that the money's coming, but now the money's coming, she's going to feel better. So that's just an update. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. That's always good news, and I want to look out at this committee right here. This is where a lot of it began. And your foresightedness and what you saw and what we needed and where we started all of this. And Chairman P., I still say this is a really good committee that I've got right here. and appreciate everybody that really worked on that and went that way. I brought tonight, some of you may not have seen, this was the 1991 paper that did come out. Any of you that didn't see this one, and it mentioned the fact that State Farm buy fails. And I said here other night, when we were sitting here, I said, I hope we don't have deja vu all over again, and we didn't. And I really appreciate all of this, and it's good to see that this is not out here.
2 of us in here voted for it, right?
And I said, I really wanted a picture up here. You know, it's sort of like the Truman Dewey picture where he's standing there holding the Dewey wins, and it was Truman that actually won that election. I said, that's the way I feel about this, and I think this is all really good, and it's some good things. This whole paper right here, in fact, this whole front page, Brown's Mill crashes down, and then we didn't buy the State Farm building that day. I said, that was a bad paper, and it says up here, all you UT fans, it says, UT sells out. So, I mean, this whole day right here wasn't all that good for Rutherford County in 1991, but we appreciate everything that this committee does. Any other business? If not, we're adjourned.